I still can't believe he's gone. We had 6 interviews with my friend Charlie Kirk over the past 7 years. He was either 23 or 24 when we started these interviews. I thought it was 4 interviews. We went through the archives. We found 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you chronologically these interviews starting in 2018. And in these interviews, you're going to find a guy who is wise well beyond his years, a guy who loves God, loves his country, loves his family. I think family is before country, but certainly loves those top 3. And he talks about why he wants a better United States of America for his kids and for his grandkids. Again, 6 times we spoke, and you're going to hear a consistent message from Charlie Kirk about why he did what he did. Why would you possibly take such a huge platform and give people who disagree with you the time of day? And he did that constantly, better than anybody. And then he changed a lot of hearts and minds. So we're going to start with 2018. Going to give you back to back all of my 6 interviews. I'd love to have you share this. Love to have you subscribe here. And let me know in the comments what you think about this.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
Really glad to have the founder and president of TPUSA, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. Charlie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Man, glad to have you on the program today. There's so much going on. We've got all these primaries happening today and runoff elections and the midterms around the corner in November. And you and your organization are so incredibly active. For those who don't know what TPUSA is, and by the way, it's tpusa.com, fill them in. What is this organization?
Sure. I started this organization 6 years ago, believe it or not.
Wow.
We're a student organization that focuses on conservative outreach where it matters most, on college and high school campuses. We believe in American exceptionalism, the free market, Constitution. We don't think we're very controversial.
Yeah.
However, we're met with intense opposition from the Marxists that have infiltrated higher education. And this is the battle for the soul of our country and the battle for Western civilization. And we do the largest events in the movement for young people, largest Young Women's Leadership Summit, Young Latino Leadership Summit. We just had 800 students at our high school leadership conference a couple weeks ago. So it's a very exciting organization that's growing dramatically, and we're thankful to have your support and many other patriots that are concerned about the current trajectory of our generation.
Well, there's a problem here, and again, it's Charlie Kirk. Go to tpusa.com. You're young, you're a millennial, you should be smoking pot all day. You should want the socialism. You want $32 trillion in health care handed to everybody. How is it? Well, first of all, why don't more people know that there are people like you and large organizations like yours that are conservative, that do love traditional American values? Are you drowned out by the media and Hollywood and music that says young people believe one thing?
Yeah, it's difficult to get the traditional media to cover us as fairly as they would if we were a liberal organization.
Yeah.
We're continually minimalized or ostracized or trying to be labeled as something that we're not. But we expect that. That's part of the fight. That's part of the struggle of being a conservative. But we're going to get so big that they can't ignore us. That's our big goal. And we're getting close to that. You know, we'll probably have 3,000 to 5,000 people at our big event in Palm Beach upcoming in December.
Right.
That's going to be very, very difficult to ignore. But look, we are pushing back against the idea that every young person has to be a Marxist that wants, free stuff and be taken care of and be a victim. That's just not the case. And we're presenting a different platform and worldview for those that are interested.
He's the president and founder of TPUSA, tpusa.com. Follow them on Twitter. You're just at Charlie Kirk on Twitter, right?
At Charlie Kirk 11. Yeah, I'm pretty active there. It's probably my favorite social media platform.
Well, you're awfully active, and I was going to ask you about that next. You don't back down to a fight. It's just sort of like the president. The president fights back, and they call him all these names, but he doesn't care. You don't seem to care either in a very good way. But I wonder, how effective do you think it's been to grab the attention of other young people? You and I both know that when we debate liberals and far-left fascists, we're never really going to change their mind. Are we successful, though, when we argue in a platform like that to grab the attention of others and make them think, wow, maybe I don't think that way?
Well, for those in the middle, absolutely. The far left-wing radicals, I don't try to convince them. But if my Twitter feed gets a lot of attention and a lot of play, tens of thousands of retweets a day is what I average, millions of impressions.
Yeah.
And it's very, if you look at the number one thing I do is kind of like, did you know, facts, talking about things that might add context or depth to a current news cycle that people aren't currently talking about. So I had one this morning listing off the most murderous cities in America that are all run by Democrats.
Right.
Just, and I have another one that went totally viral last week where I named the last time a Republican was elected mayor of the most murderous, poorest cities in America, such as Chicago, 1931, Atlanta, 1942, so on and so forth. And it makes people say, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And obviously there's a message behind that.
Yeah.
But of course you're not gonna persuade that 15 to 20% of left-wing radicals. But we are going to bring over people in the middle that might have never thought of it that way. I'm really glad I saw that. And I get hundreds of messages a day from young people that say, thank you so much, Charlie. Keep the fight. We have your back. You opened my eyes, so on and so forth.
It's Charlie Kirk. He's the president and founder of TPUSA, tpusa.com. Follow them. Follow him on Twitter as well. When you get a candidate like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's young and cute, I don't have a problem being what is it called? Toxic masculinity. I'm toxically masculine that I noticed that she's young and cute. That's really the reason why people voted for her, because when you ask her a question, she doesn't know anything about anything. When you've got somebody like that, Charlie, are you happy to have her? Because now you get to say, okay, here's a young person who is not delivering facts and you're buying into the cult of personality. Here are the actual facts that can even off what this argument is. Do you like that she's out there, or are you disappointed that she's out there? A little bit of both.
Well, it's probably a little bit of both. Obviously, the fact that those ideas are having resonance in America is horrifying. Marxism is the enemy of freedom, and she embraces purely Marxist doctrine and ideas. But in some ways, I'm glad, because we now have the ability to highlight and show that how horrible these ideas really are.
Right.
Look, she's just the extension of the university system. And this is what's so frustrating. I tried to tell people in the higher levels of Republican leadership 3 or 4 years ago, there will be Marxists running the Democrat Party in the next 10 years.
Right.
And they said, oh, Charlie, you're overreacting. I said, no, I'm on these universities. I see what they're producing. It's worse than ever. And look what's happening. Ocasio-Cortez, a decade ago, was getting indoctrinated about America being an evil, homophobic, racist, terrible country. That's only going to get worse. There's another 1,000 Ocasio-Cortezes waiting to come in the lecture halls right now. And if we don't do something about that to raise our generation of freedom fighters up, we're going to have a big problem. And so I'm glad that the ideas that I'm fighting against every single day, that the rest of the world now has to deal with it. I've read the Wall Street Journal. I said, where did this come from? It came from our universities. We're trying to tell people that this is real stuff. And I don't say it lightly when I say we're debating the Marxists.
Well, we certainly are, but I mean, she's not even a very good Marxist. I mean, if you ask her why the unemployment rate is too low, she says because people have two jobs. That doesn't make sense. I'm one person. If I'm employed, I'm employed. If I'm not, I'm not. She said she doesn't understand Israel and Palestine whatsoever. No. And she says that she'd like to turn some seats red. So, I mean, she doesn't get it. So maybe as the spokesperson for Marxism, or so-called democratic socialism, whatever that is, maybe, we can actually eke through the cracks and say, here's why these people should not be in the forefront. Kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And look, so you're spot on where you said she's not a very good Marxist. You're correct. She's not. And
but I'm glad she's not, because Marxism actually is attractive to people who are weak of mind. She doesn't have any facts. She doesn't even have that right.
That's right. Yeah. And so, I mean, if she actually argued Marxism correctly, she'd be a lot more effective. I think she said something else the other day she said to Ben Shapiro, stop catcalling me, when he wanted to debate with her.
Right.
She's a self-imploding mess. What did she say about Pelosi? Something about her not being leader or something.
Right. She kind of is, but she kind of isn't. I mean, she doesn't really know what to say anymore. And Bernie Sanders is allowing her to go on his little video rants on Twitter. The whole thing is weird. But again, I think at the end of the day, gun to my head, I'm glad that she's out there, because it gives people like you and me the ability to say, here's what's wrong with that side. Here's why that isn't what America was built on, nor should it be what America's future looks like. It's Charlie Kirk, at Charlie Kirk 11 on Twitter. Follow him. I retweet and I follow him, and I do all that. He follows me too. Thank you for that. And tpusa.com, you've got to go there and check out what this great group of young conservatives, traditional American values conservatives, are doing. I can't not ask you about Omarosa. Your close friend and also works with you, Candace Owens, doesn't mind going out. I think she called her the B word today on Twitter. You don't have any problem going after her. I've been going after her as well, because I don't know if you ever watched The Apprentice, but we were introduced to Omarosa as a big fat lying liar. That's who she was. She got her notoriety and her fame and her fortune from lying her ass off on that show. So are we surprised, Charlie, that this is who she is today?
No, we shouldn't be. And it's too bad that the president gave her multiple opportunities and repeated opportunities, and this is how she comes back and thanks him with a tell-all book, unethically, probably illegally recorded tapes. I hope she gets criminally prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But this just goes to show that there's a market out there of lawyers and pundits and media professionals that guided her through the process of how to write the book, what to say, that will protect her against lawsuits just to try to destroy this president. And I think that's the bigger point that needs to be made here.
Well, also, and I want your take on this as the boss over TPUSA, how do young people respond when the media does what it did today? With Sarah Sanders, instead of asking about Trump's agenda or the economy or what the future looks like or our relationship with North Korea or anything under the sun, all they asked her was, is he a racist? And when she said, I can't guarantee, because they said, can you guarantee right now he's never said the N-word? She said, well, I can't guarantee anything. I haven't heard everything that anybody's ever said. They turned that into, he must have said it. He must be a racist.
What a ridiculous question, too, if you really think about it. It's such a stunningly stupid question to be asking a press secretary that. But look, the media is not invested at all in actually doing their job. It's what I call destination destruction journalism. They just want to destroy. They don't want to actually get the facts. They don't want to tell the story. They are hell-bent on destroying political opponents of the left, and they want to go after every single conservative ally or the president. And Omarosa fits the bill for them right now, and they'll discard her as soon as she loses her utility.
TPUSA.com. Go follow him on Twitter. It's Charlie Kirk 11. This is Charlie Kirk, the founder and president. Last question. We just had the primaries. It was not a blue wave, wasn't even a blue trickle. In fact, it was nothing near what they thought it would be. I think due in large part to you and your organization and hopefully a show like mine. So the midterms are coming up. The blue wave probably isn't going to happen. Do they grab the House? They're not going to get the Senate. Is the House really up for grabs? Predict for me what's going to happen in November.
Yeah, it's going to be really tight. I mean, the House is going to be determined by a couple districts in suburban America where women are not as favorable towards the president as other parts of the country are. So that'll be tough. My prediction is we hang the House barely, and if we do that, it'll totally defy history. It'll firewall against impeachment, and hopefully we can prevent them from getting in charge of these committees. Because if we didn't have Nunes and if we didn't have Meadows with the power of subpoena, we wouldn't know about Strzok. We wouldn't know about all this Russia stuff. And it's that would be a horrible, scary set of circumstances.
Well, does it bother you as it does me that any Democrat would ever say, yes, I want higher taxes. Yes, I want the president impeached. Yes, I want to go back to Obamonomics.
Well, it's who they are. I mean, they have no civilization to protect. They have no way of life that they want to actually preserve. So everything for them is about fundamental destruction.
Yeah.
Or turning America into a much more Marxist social welfare democracy, of which we actually want to preserve a republic that's centered on free enterprise, individual initiative, and American exceptionalism.
TPUSA.com. Go there. It's Charlie Kirk. Charlie, thanks a million.
You bet. Thanks so much.
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Let me start this way. I see you on television all the time now, and dude, you are doing an absolutely incredible job. I mean, you're very comfortable. The facts are incredible. There's a great energy to you. I'm proud of seeing your success. Great job with that.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot, and it's been a really good couple of years, and we appreciate your support and always having us back on your terrific and growing radio program. And
yeah, man.
So thank you for the kind words.
No, we're making it happen like you are. No, really great job. I love the fact that you guys don't take any guff. I love that it's a youthful conservative movement, your organization. Charlie, if you don't mind, could you tell me where TPU USA even came from, Turning Point USA? Was this your brainchild?
Yeah, I started it when I was 18 years old out of Chicago, Illinois, and it's been 7 years now as the organization has grown to over 1,400 high school and college campuses across the country. And, our focus is to educate the next generation around the values of free enterprise, constitutionally limited government, and American exceptionalism. And it has been a terrific journey now, as I mentioned, with our campus presence and our massive events that we're doing. And last week we were honored to host the President of the United States at our event, which was a really, really great honor and opportunity. So, we're growing at every single turn, and we're fighting for the soul of the next generation and that the soul of our country. We refuse to allow this generation to become, the leftist socialist victims that are being swindled by the false promises of Marxism. And so, with that, we see a great opportunity, but also a lot of work ahead of us. To recapture the next generation around the ideas of freedom.
It's Charlie Kirk, tpusa.org. Make sure you go there. Go follow him on Twitter. His tweets are incredible. His Twitter game's very strong, people. Go and follow him there. Also follow TPUSA on there. When it comes to young people in this country, what I found, and I think that you found this as well, is that yes, they're indoctrinated. Yes, they're getting BS. Yes, they're only getting leftist stuff from college professors that are 12-1 liberal over conservative. But if you have a conversation with them, they'll listen. They'll hear the other side. And more times than not, when given all the facts, they'll come around and say, well, that's not the way that I feel at all. I actually feel the way that you're saying. Are you finding that as well?
I am, and I find that far more than times than not, students are not inherently opposed to our ideas because
Right.
they're not exposed to them at all in the first place. It's that students don't even hear the other side. They don't even know that there's another side.
Right.
They just think there's only one way of thinking, and it's up to us to liberate the conversation and to give students the opinions and the intellectual ammunition that they need to be able to understand that there's different types of philosophy versus that of just a leftist Marxist worldview. And I'll tell you that our organization stands firm around the ideas of America as an exceptional country, as an idea that needs to be preserved, protected, and better understood. But it really is. There's a lot of danger coming out of our lecture halls. There's a lot of danger that is emanating from our universities and high schools, and our organization now present on 1,400 high school and college campuses. And for your listeners that are curious, it's Turning Point USA. They did catch it earlier, and they want to get engaged or get involved. And one of our key kind of premises is that whatever happens on college campuses will soon happen in the halls of Congress.
Right.
And the squad, if you will, was trained and they were molded on college campuses. I mean, their ideology came from campus. AOC was not a radical until she hit campus. And now you see what she's doing with that radicalism. She's totally changing the face of an entire American political party, and with it, the terms of the debate. And so the fight on college campuses is critical to the soul of our country, and in a lot of different ways will continue to, dictate whether we're going to live in a free society or one that is embracing very dangerous anti-American ideas.
It is Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. To that point where people getting involved in organizations like yours on college campuses, about 50 miles away from where I sit is UT Austin. And people at UT Austin, Antifa and other radical leftist groups have said, if you dare join TPUSA, if you dare join Turning Point or another like-minded conservative organization, we're going to dox you, we're going to expose you, we're going to attack you at every turn. That's scary. It's scary talk, Charlie. And I think that some young people who are 17, 18, 19 years old are going to say, maybe I'm conservative, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this is modern day, like a public character assassination is
Right.
what's happening here. And you see, I mean, this is not being covered in the mainstream press, but you have militant left-wing organizations that go after conservative students and conservative student groups if they dare think differently. I mean, this is a really dangerous trend, and we saw this in obviously at Texas State University. We've seen that at UT Austin, where incoming freshmen are facing threats, both physical intimidation threats and threats of violence, if they dare, join a Turning Point USA conservative-minded chapter. I mean, this is not a country. This is not the country that, I thought I lived in at times.
Yeah.
Where this is tolerated and this is allowed, where people that hold conservative views are going to live in danger. And the press has just been so horrible on this. They refuse to cover it. Antifa, which is a domestic terror organization, and the president seems as if he's open to classifying them as such,
Right.
based on his recent tweets, which I fully and completely support. Antifa, which is a domestic terror organization, is the paramilitary arm of the far left wing of the Democrat Party. I've been stormed at a restaurant by Antifa. Antifa has, chased me through the streets. Antifa shows up to our event, and the media basically doesn't cover it. And could you imagine if conservatives were doxing liberal students? Could you imagine if conservatives with Make America Great Again hats were chasing liberals to the streets or protesting them?
Would be outraged.
If it existed, it'd be on all. If it existed, it'd be all over cable television.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. Instead, they have to fake hate crimes like Jussie Smollett. That's
Yeah.
how you know you live in a great country, when you have to start making up hate crimes. But unfortunately, there is real hate crimes happening against conservatives and those of which that support this great president.
And we'll continue to expose them like you are. It's Charlie Kirk. He's got a new podcast called The Charlie Kirk Show. His last name is Kirk. Make sure you find it. Go follow him on Twitter, and I'm sure that he's going to update there when you can find the podcast. I can't wait to go listen to them. When it comes to AOC, who you mentioned, and Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley, but really more focused on AOC, when she says concentration camps, when she says women are drinking out of toilets, when she says she was physically and sexually threatened by a Border Patrol agent, but she didn't get his badge number or his name. Charlie, does she know that she's lying and that she's just trying to gin up some trouble, or do you think she really believes that stuff?
No. I mean, I don't think that we effectively teach, these next generation exactly the consequences of lying. In fact, they believe in kind of the ends justify the means. So for her, she wants open borders. She wants to create a scene. So she just lies openly about it.
Yeah.
The media doesn't call her out on it. The media doesn't cross-examine her on it. She just blatantly makes up these things, and there's really no recourse. And that's too bad, because, she just gets away with absolute falsehood. She gets away with total, complete fabrication. I mean, like you said, kids were not drinking out of toilets. Those things were totally fabricated and made up.
Right.
And but for her, it's all part of the journey. All part of the journey to deconstruct America. And that's really what the left wants. They want to deconstruct our country from within. I encourage all of your listeners to look up deconstructionism. You can look it up online. I think you will get a very good picture of kind of how and why, that ideology is implemented and what it means. I also covered extensively on my podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show. Thank you for mentioning it.
You bet.
If anyone wants to give me a subscribe, it really helps out a lot.
Yeah, go and do that. And again, follow him on Twitter. You'll find out how to go and find the Charlie Kirk Show. I guess you can get it on all the podcast delivery systems as well. But they'll look it up, they'll find it, and also, Charlie, make sure you get me a link, and I'll tweet it as well. Not that my Twitter's as big as yours, dude. Holy crap! It's Charlie Kirk. He's the founder of Turning Point USA. So let's leave it on this. The debates tonight, I had to, and you have to, because of what we do for a living. We comment on what's happening politically, and then some. We have to watch. I would rather shut it off tonight, but I'm not going to be able to. We're going to see a bunch of hispandering. We're going to see, and I saw you guys talk about that on television the other night. It was hilarious. They're going to talk about how much they hate the country, how racist the president is. Charlie, why is that a winning combination or a winning theory or a winning agenda for the left to constantly say how disgusting and horrible this country is, the president is, the White House is, hold people like Kaepernick up on high, and denigrate people like Donald Trump who just simply loves the country? Why is that a winning strategy, do you think?
Well, I don't think it is, but they're trying to reshape the Democrat Party. And they used to be a party that had some semblance of, hardworking Americans within their base, union workers, pipe fitters, carpenters. Those are all now Trump-supporting Democrats, not Trump-supporting Republicans.
Right.
I hope it stays that way. I hope Republican Party stays the party of hard work and the party of middle-class values, because that's truly the party of Reagan and the party of Eisenhower and the party of Lincoln.
Right.
I think the further away we get from the cosmopolitan elitist agenda, the better, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that's why Donald Trump has been so miraculously successful. So they're trying to reshape their party, and their new base is non-citizens, lawbreakers, and metropolitan Malibu, Manhattan elites that couldn't care less about Montana, Michigan, or Missouri. And that's where they want to reshape their party, to cater to small clusters of people that have very different problems from that of hardworking Americans, but instead would rather sit at home and do nothing and get stuff for free, and also to pander to non-citizens who came into our country lawlessly. This is all happening because Donald Trump stole their base away. And instead of trying to win back the base, they're now trying to reshape their party, and I think for the worse.
Such a great point. A very, very excellent point. You're going to watch it tonight like I am, right? I mean, it's going to be, I hate to do it because it's going to be 3 hours of people hating America.
I'll be watching. That's right. Well, there'll be the Marxist circus is what I call it.
Well, it's a good nomenclature for sure. Get his podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show. Go and subscribe. We'll show you how. Go to Turning Point USA. Follow them on Twitter. Follow him on Twitter. Is it tpusa.org? That's the website, right?
tpusa.com. Yeah.
.com.
Check it out.
All right.
So, tpusa.com.
100%.
Right.
Charlie, I'm proud of your success. Thank you for the time and the knowledge. Let's do it again very soon, my friend.
Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
I'm really glad to have back from TPUSA. He's out there pushing hard for the president, and author Charlie Kirk. Charlie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on. You've got a new book coming up, the MAGA Doctrine. Do we say MAGA or MAGA? It's MAGA, right?
I like, it depends on what part of the country. I like MAGA too, though. Our friend Don Jr., who has his new book coming out, always says MAGA. So I'll yield to Don on that. All
right. The MAGA Doctrine, the only ideas that will win the future. Go pre-order it right now at charliekirk.com, charliekirk.com. All right, let's talk about the MAGA Doctrine. It basically is we love our country. It basically is traditional American values aren't bad. It basically is the anti-the squad doctrine. Do I have it right?
Yeah, look, the ethos of the Trump presidency has been misrepresented intentionally by the leftist media and fake Republicans. And essentially the main philosophy behind the Trump presidency is, can citizens peacefully reclaim their government when they feel that it's gone so dramatically in the wrong direction from both parties over the last 40 years? And that means questioning the conventional wisdom. Should these trade deals just be bought lock, stock, and barrel? Should we be in these foreign countries endlessly without any sort of success or end in sight? Is it okay that Washington, D.C. has the wealthiest counties in America? Is it okay for our agencies to have the power to subvert an election and go after a president they might not agree with? So the MAGA doctrine, going all the way back to the writers like Cicero in the Roman Empire, is about restoring citizen government. It's the beauty of the rallies. It's how Trump doesn't just go to the rallies so get people excited. He's going to see and hear what people think about the agenda he's been bringing to our country. It is the most responsive form of government. It has our founding fathers smiling from heaven when they see this kind of Trump movement, because the MAGA doctrine is one that has totally and fundamentally changed the way American politics have been done. And in my upcoming book, I talk about President Monroe in the 1820s had the Monroe Doctrine, which completely changed the way that U.S. foreign policy was done. I make the argument this is 200 years later. This is just as important. The MAGA Doctrine reformats and will change the trajectory of the Republican Party for the better over the next 20, 30, or 50 years.
I could not agree with you more. It's Charlie Kirk from TPUSA. His new book is called The MAGA Doctrine. The only ideas that will win the future. Go to charliekirk.com, Charlie spelled with an I-E, Kirk.com. Go there and do that right now. You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because former President Obama, of course, went into the Paris Accords, which was a globalist thing that just basically punished us for being successful. Went into the Iran deal, which was not a deal for us. They were going to shut down Fordo, going to keep on enriching uranium. They didn't have to do anything. China didn't have to do anything when it came to climate change. So-called climate change. It basically was a punishment. The progressives in this country want to punish us through regulation, like you said, subverting the people that elected the members of Congress and taking full power and control. Charlie, here's the question. You're out there on tour every day and you're talking to people every day. I'm stunned you've got a few minutes to talk to me. But when you're out there talking to people, do they understand that left versus right really is left, government controls everything, right, the people control it?
Yeah, and so look, first of all, thank you for the kind words. And the reason I'm kind of dressed in campus gear is I'm going from campus to campus. I've been in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, New Hampshire, California, Ohio, and Florida just in the last 7 days speaking to college kids about these very ideas of free enterprise and limited government. And so the traditional political spectrum of left versus right, I think, is very deceiving because what does that really mean? I mean, sometimes people say it go actually both sides. That doesn't really make any sense. And I like to look at it as, are you going to create a government that respects first principles and citizen-led government, or are you going to believe in collectivism and statism? Basically comes back to the arguments of Plato versus Aristotle. Where do rights come from? Do we give up our existence to the state? Was it the state that that created us and gave us the right to exist? Or do we believe in Scottish Enlightenment values of first principles, individuals' rights, free speech, so on and so forth? And so what I talk about in this book is that a very unconventional individual, someone who was never supposed to run for the presidency, someone who was never supposed to win the primary, someone who was never supposed to win the election, has actually been the most effective president in restoring our ethos, principles, philosophy, and country back to the trajectory the founding fathers originally intended, which is one of American revitalization, which is one in focusing on the very vibrant and important middle class, which has been totally disenfranchised by both political parties. And look, I think we have to speak truth to power, to be perfectly honest, that both parties have made failures. That this is not necessarily just a Republican good, Democrat bad type doctrine. This is a MAGA doctrine that gives an honest analysis that both parties have contributed to the decline of the United States of America over the last 20, 30 years. And it's only because of the spirit and the toughness of our people that our country is not totally gone. And this president does not get the credit he deserves for what he's been able to do. Going to college campuses every single day with Turning Point USA, the work that we're doing, I can tell you students are hungry to hear this message. Good. That we are encountering more curiosity than combativeness, and I'm seeing a revitalization of our country happening in front of my very eyes.
I love it. It's Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA. What is the actual website? Is it .org or .com?
Our address at Turning Point USA is tpusa.com. That's tpusa.com.
And his website is charliekirk.com. Go there and pre-order this book, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. Let's talk about polling for a second. I was a TV news anchor in 2004 in Albany, New York, and Zogby said John Kerry had won in a landslide because of the exit polling. Obviously, that was dead wrong. We heard that Hillary Clinton was going to win, 98.5% she would win, and of course she lost. There's a poll out today by Fox of all places that says Hillary Clinton could beat him again. You've got polls last week that said 70% of college students or millennials believe that socialism would be great, 30% want communism. Charlie, how much weight, how much credence can we put into a poll that's taken of 1,000 people to allegedly represent all of us?
Well, nothing. I mean, according to Hillary Clinton, she still won the election. She said, I would beat him again, which is stunning. Yeah. I mean, look, and that's part of what I talk about in my book, which is the distrust of centralized institutions, which is a good thing. In fact, free people should always be distrustful of big centralized institutions. Right. The left only likes to critique corporations. And I think corporations are not above reproach. And I think the best way to actually critique them is through entrepreneurship and competition. And that if you don't like corporations, go start your own. Be an entrepreneur and compete against them. But they don't ever critique government at all. I mean, they think government is untouchable. The MAGA doctrine, to kind of tie it all together, is to question the polling, to question the media, to question government, question the FBI, respectfully and thoughtfully, of course, because free citizens, the only thing that could prevent us from living our lives as we see fit is an obstructed, coercive government that gets in our way. And the polling mechanism has been one of the few things that has allowed the ruling class basically a continual infrastructure to be able to erode our freedoms and liberties. I don't believe they're polling at all anymore. I mean, they were wrong about the polling in 2016. They were wrong about the polling in 2018. They were wrong about the polling with the Mueller report. Now they say every Democrat's beat Trump. I just don't believe it. Not to mention, a national poll means nothing. Remember, the states created the federal government. The federal government did not create the states. We are a collection of states put forward in an electoral college compact. Thank goodness we still have that system intact. I care more about the polling in Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida. And guess what? Donald Trump, if you take the polling at face value, is up in the polls in Florida against Elizabeth Warren by 5 points, but they won't show you that. And so, look, the only polls that really matter are the polls on Election Day, the polls that show Donald Trump win a convincing election with 300-plus electoral votes, winning in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Iowa, Ohio, and Florida states he was not supposed to win. And I'll tell you that going into 2020, I think, as Rush Limbaugh always says, these polls are used in suppression capacity. They're used to suppress or try to direct human behavior in a certain way. People not show up or try to vote differently. And I think that going into 2020, every Trump supporter listening to this has to ignore the polls, vote for the candidate you believe is best, which should be Donald Trump, by the way, and don't allow the ruling class to use these to try to sway you to go in one way or the other.
If you like what you're hearing, and you probably do because he's very, very smart and he's on top of it, go listen to him. His podcast is called The Charlie Kirk Show. Check out his website, charliekirk.com. Pre-order this book right now, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. It's an important book. I can't wait to get it. Let me ask you about impeachment quickly. I talked to Jerome Corsi, and he said the FBI tried to get him to lie to them. That was really the end game to get him in trouble, to get him to turn state's evidence. Michael Flynn, the general, of course, was charged with all sorts of stuff and investigated, interrogated without a lawyer present. They eventually got him for lying to them. Now it appears as though, because they have nothing impeachable, obviously, Charlie, you know that, I know that, everybody knows that. Now they're trying to get the president on obstruction of justice. If you obstruct our investigation into something you didn't do, we got you anyway on something that's impeachable. Do you agree that that's what they're trying to do? They have nothing else.
Oh, no doubt. And look, so in Hollywood, Adam Schiff said he wanted to be a Hollywood writer or something, and the far left media covered it. In Hollywood, when you write a horror film, you start at the end and you work your way backwards.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what they're doing with this impeachment hunt. They start with removing Donald Trump as president of the United States or preventing him from winning re-election, and they work backwards.
How do
and
we
they've
get there?
gone through every plan. Remember the insurance plan?
Oh,
The
yeah.
insurance plan, as articulated by Peter Strzok, was to try, we never actually know exactly what it is, but we should. Basically, we know the Mueller report and the Russia investigation was the insurance plan. And the president of the United States has gone through such unbelievable adversity, and now they're trying to put on another impeachment vote. But look, I have to give the Republicans in Congress a rare form of credit. And for me, this is something to be said. The fact that they're thinking of calling Adam Schiff to testify as a character witness,
Love it.
finally we're punching back twice as hard. If there was one lesson that we learned, and I talk about this in my book, which was if you want to see the MAGA doctrine put in practice, look at the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. Because the doctrine is more than just a philosophy of ideas. It's also how to act when the left comes after you with everything they have. Any other Republican would have pulled the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh, and we would not have him sitting on the Supreme Court. And guess what? When Republicans stand the ground and fight back twice as hard, really good things happen. The same can be said right now for what they're doing with Adam Schiff creating this whole narrative against a duly elected president.
And you got to love it. You've got Nunes and Jordan and Meadows and the like who are actually standing up to these guys. You're right, Charlie. For years and years, Republicans never circled the wagons. The Democrats always do. Republicans would jump in the wagon and say, we'll just go along with you. Finally, we've got a small group, but it's growing, of people that are very, very strong, and they're standing behind this president. I think the left and Adam Schiff thought this guy would have quit. Trump would have quit by now. The president's not going anywhere. The name of the book is The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. His name is Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA. CharlieKirk.com. Check out his podcast. Get this book right now. Charlie, thanks a million for your time,
Thank
man.
you.
Glad to have back the founder of Turning Point USA and a great guy you see on television and hear on radio all the time. It is Charlie Kirk. Charlie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be on.
It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on. You've got a big event coming up in West Palm Beach. I grew up in West Palm Beach from Palm Beach County, so that's going to be a great one. It'll be great weather for it, too. We'll talk about that in a second. But I also want people to really be tuned into your podcast. It's charliekirk.com. Charlie is with an I-E at the end, kirk.com. And go listen to his pontifications. He's a very, very smart guy who's really got his finger on the pulse of what young Americans are thinking about the way things are going. Let's start there, and we'll get into this Turning Point event as well. You've got a book coming up that we'll promote in a second. But the young people in America are not what many of us assume they are, which is just lemmings that follow the leftist progressive way. There are a lot of people who think like you do, and like I do, frankly, who are still young, but either they're afraid to say it or it's just not getting coverage. Which is it?
Yeah, that's right. So we just completed a very ambitious and historic campus tour at Turning Point USA. I went from Nevada to Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, New Hampshire, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, packed out at every single event. We had Don Jr. with us throughout a lot of this tour. And I'll tell you, the one thing in common that we had throughout all of our campus tours is that we had to turn away more students than we were able to actually have space for when we did these events.
That's great.
I'll tell you, Joe, it's amazing to see the amount of enthusiasm and curiosity that young people have around these conservative ideas and these conservative values. We are met with curiosity more than combativeness. Students are gravitating to us in the numbers that are so astronomical. They want a strong America. They want borders. They want a society that isn't embracing these culturally Marxist garbage of the transgender bathrooms and women having to compete against men who think they are women, which is a huge issue, by the way, Joe. I got to tell you, this is something that if I could give one piece of advice to the president, if he wants to win re-election with suburban women, he should go out and say that men who think they are women should not be able to compete in sports against biological women. It's a huge issue that the feminist groups have been so silent on, but when you press them on it, they totally and completely agree. And so, look, we're traveling the country and we're doing quite a lot to move the dial. And I'll tell you that I've never been so optimistic about the future of our country.
Follow him on Twitter, Charlie Kirk. Also follow TPUSA on Twitter. Go to tpusa.com. They've got events happening like the ones that Charlie just talked about all over the country. Yeah, just to what you mentioned about the athletes for a second, there are women who are liberal, who are completely against what's happening. So the intersectionality of transgenders and women and people of color and fill-in-the-blank religions, that sort of breaks, because when you've got feminists agreeing with you and me and with the president, you've got something that's really going to upset the tide when it comes to politics. There are women who have worked 20 years in their lives trying to compete at the highest level who are being beaten easily by men who biologically and physically they haven't done anything different other than grow their hair out long and say, I'm a woman. And it's frankly unfair. I'm glad that you brought it up.
Yeah, and I think this is just obviously a specific example of how the left destroys things that work.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain things that don't need to be changed. Not all progress is good. For example, women should only be going in the women's restroom and men should only be going in the men's restroom. Not that complicated.
Right.
Or women should be given separate athletic, yet equal, separate but equal athletic competitions, basically saying that they should have the same access to the same athletic opportunities. And we know this through either Title IX or Title X, which says that. But when men who couldn't compete against other men that have some sort of gender confusion are now able to compete against women that train so hard, that really work unbelievably hard to get at the highest of their particular sport, now have to compete up against a man who has testosterone levels that are exponentially higher, that are just physically stronger. And this is not just an isolated incident.
Right.
You are seeing men win state championships in wrestling and in track and many other competitions against women. I mean, how dare you, honestly? And I'll tell you, that's some of the stuff that really students are rebelling against, rightfully so, because in the college campus atmosphere, it is this sort of, it's this horrible order and orthodoxy that you must obey and submit at all costs, that you can't possibly think differently than the cultural Marxist agenda. With Turning Point USA, we have chapters all across the country. I'm going to go to Brown University next week. So thoughts and prayers would be greatly appreciated, Joe, because at Brown University, this kind of message is not necessarily always brought. But I can't wait to be able to continue to spread this message of freedom, opportunity, and conservative values to more and more students across the country.
CharlieKirk.com. Go check out his podcast right now. You can pre-order his book there as well, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. Go and get that. It's going to come out early next year. So as you're traveling with Don and Kimberly Guilfoyle and others that we know of, you're finding these great crowds. People are really embracing you. You're also finding student governments that are having a fit. You're finding presidents of universities having to apologize because you were there. You're finding Antifa showing up trying to cause violence or attack you guys. How do you deal with that, knowing that the masses want to hear both sides? Whether they agree with you or not, they really are open to getting educated and hearing what you have to say. But there is this really large power structure trying to stop you from saying it.
Well, that's how you know you're making a difference. When you're going up against the cultural left, you're going to get resistance. You're going to get backlash. Look at our president. I mean, the president has to deal with it every single day. But I'll tell you, I enjoy the fight. I enjoy when Antifa shows up and the administrators try to not allow me on campus. You know, we met with our team and we said, what's the most liberal school where we have a Turning Point USA chapter that I could go speak at? Brown University won the contest. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to Brown. That's why I spoke at UCLA a couple weeks ago. That's why I spoke at Stanford. That's why I spoke at Berkeley. We as conservatives have to play offense again. We have truth on our side. We have history, logic. They have feelings and they have emotion. And we have to be unafraid to go forth and to push our values to places that conservatives traditionally have not gone. I'll tell you, Joe, if we do this, we will continue to win. That's what Donald Trump did. He went to the black community. He went to places that conservatives are not supposed to win, called Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. Remember when we were told those states would never, ever not vote Democrat?
And he almost got Minnesota, and even Ronald Reagan couldn't get Minnesota. He was that close.
Yeah, that's right, against Walter Mondale.
Yeah,
Walter Mondale
right,
even won Minnesota. That's right. And so, but I'll tell you, Joe, that I have that book coming up, The MAGA Doctrine. I talk about this on my podcast as well. One of the things that we can learn from President Trump is to play offense in places we're not supposed to always be, to go into the black community, to go into disenfranchised communities. I'm so sick and tired by this establishment Republican ethos where we just have to play along to get along, manage the decline of America. We have a new spirit. We have a renewed energy. And I'm telling you, we are succeeding at every front. And it's an honor to be part of this very important culture war, something that you do a great job every single day expressing as well.
Well, you're a huge part of it. Thank you for that. But you're a huge part of it. Go follow him on Twitter. You put out facts on Twitter. I think that you found the secret sauce. You'll write fact and then just list a bunch of stuff that's true, and then people will retweet it a billion times because they should. I think that we didn't have the ammunition, or we were afraid to have the ammunition. But how important are people like Ted Cruz and Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows and even Ron Johnson, who I spoke with earlier today? These people aren't getting along and playing along. They aren't, and may he rest in peace, they aren't John McCain, who say they're mavericks and then say they're going to stop the cash for clunkers and say they're going to build a wall, and then or say they're going to stop Obamacare, and once they get reelected, they just don't do it. These people are actually doing it, putting their political lives on the line. How important are they?
Very, and they're in the minority because, look, if we're honest with ourselves, it's been both parties over the last 40 years that have put America in a less competitive position.
Yeah.
We're $22 trillion in debt. We're still in this directionless war in Afghanistan that I think should be ended completely and totally.
Agreed.
To do a service to our veterans that are in harm's way. And by the way, I'm by no means an isolationist, but I also don't believe we should occupy every single country in the Middle East, while China, who's our true enemy, is encroaching on our sovereignty and the world's sovereignty. By the way, you hit it on the head the best. The fourth branch of government. You have Washington, D.C. That is the power source. It is the wealthiest counties in America around Washington, D.C. So both parties have contributed to this, and both establishments are doing nothing to fix it. So you kind of have the renegades on the left that think that we should have socialism take over our country, and now that's becoming mainstream Democrat dogma. But I can't say enough good stuff about Mark Meadows and Ted Cruz and Jim Jordan. These guys are true leaders. They are fighting for conservative values every single day. Senator Ron Johnson has had our president's back, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah.
And he won his Senate seat in 2016 thanks to President Trump. Make no mistake.
Agreed.
Senator Ron Johnson won his Senate seat against, and guess who he ran against? He ran against Russ Feingold. You might remember Russ Feingold, who lost the Senate seat to Ron Johnson in 2010.
Right.
Russ Feingold ran again in a revenge campaign, thinking for sure he was going to beat Ron Johnson because he actually decided not to run for governor against Scott Walker in 2014 and 2012.
Right.
And guess what? Ron Johnson won. So we need more true fighters in the U.S. Senate, people that are willing to cut spending, build the wall, make sure we have national sovereignty, and make the tough choices to make sure our country is secure again.
Follow him on Twitter. It's Charlie Kirk. Also follow Turning Point USA on Twitter. Go to tpusa.com. You've got an event coming up in my old stomping grounds. I grew up in South Florida. We've got a great audience, a huge audience on WFTL, our great affiliate down there. What's happening in West Palm Beach coming up in a few weeks or this month?
It's the largest event. It's the largest event of its kind. It's coming up in 2 weeks. It's our Student Action Summit. We'll have over 4,000 students from all across the country attend. We have Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Ben Shapiro, Dan Crenshaw, Candace Owens, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Laura Ingraham, and just to name a few of the amazing speakers that we have. If any of your audience wants to attend, it's tpusa.com/SAS. That's tpusa.com/SAS. And we're going to win this culture war, and this event will be a really important part of it.
So is it a matter, because, listen, all the speakers that you mentioned are incredible. I've seen you and your videos on YouTube, and I've certainly had you on the show many times as well, and you're an incredible speaker as well. Is it a matter of people who have these true beliefs that are afraid to bring them out, gathering in a place where they have like-minded people? Finally, they can wear their MAGA hats. Finally, they can say, I support Trump 2020. Finally, they're not afraid to have a drink thrown in their face or somebody punch them or throw eggs at them because they support one guy over the other guy. Is it just a matter of finally finding some community that they can just feel easier to breathe, believing what they believe?
That's part of it. But also, it's about training. We train our students at these events on how to start chapters and how to debate their teachers and win, and how to be effective conservative activists for a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's that camaraderie. It's also the networking. They're meeting other people from across the country that have shared like experiences. These students are the future of our country. And for far too long, we in the conservative movement have not made the steps necessary to push back against the left's incursion in our country. And we're doing everything we can to help win this very important culture war. And I'll tell you what, I've never been more optimistic about the future of our country because we're seeing real victories. And the more we fight, the more we're going to win.
You have a lot to do with that. It's Charlie Kirk. Go follow him on Twitter. Follow TPUSA as well. Go to tpusa.com/SAS to find out more about that gathering in West Palm Beach. Go to charliekirk.com, check out his podcast, and pre-order the MAGA Doctrine, the only ideas that will win the future. Charlie, thanks a million. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you so much. You bet.
Really glad to have this guy back. You see him on Fox all the time. You see him on television. He's a great tweeter. I mean, the tweets are incredible. Go follow him there as well. The founder of Turning Point USA. It's Charlie Kirk. Charlie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hope you're staying safe. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we are, and hopefully you're staying safe as well. We geeked out on music beforehand. I wanted the people to know we've got kind of a smile on our faces. We're both reed guys, which was kind of cool. I've never really played the. Did you play the bass clarinet? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so it's a very long story for a different time, but I was all-state bass clarinet.
Nice.
So I grew up playing clarinet. I played saxophone in the marching band. Also playing football. Don't ask how that worked. I didn't. It's completely different story. But I love the bass clarinet. Being a bigger guy, 6'4", big hands, I could do all the octaves and the really easily, much easier than most people. So love it. But it's actually nice to find another reed player somewhere.
Yeah, well, we'll vamp on that in an interview at a later date, all about music. I was a music major, a saxophone performance major, and voice minor in college. So we're kindred spirits that way. We're also kindred spirits about our love of the country and about our freedoms and liberties. And in this time, we're seeing such ridiculous, morons running cities, running counties, running states in some areas. You've got de Blasio, who you just exposed the other day, who is having people call 311 or text 311 pictures if Jews or Christians happen to gather. If you're a Muslim, don't worry, we'll send you some free food. But he was actually, you caught him out walking around without a mask on. He wasn't social distancing in the park. So it's the king saying, don't mind what I do, just do what I say, right?
Yeah, it's like the emperor that has no clothes. Someone in de Blasio's comm shop should have said, hey, targeting the Jewish community, not a good look.
Right.
It's like, who thought that was a good idea?
Right.
And so there's a lot. Look, he's the worst mayor in America by far. New York is a beautiful, wonderful city with amazing people in it. Yeah. And his tweet was so angry too. To the Jewish community, I am not warning you one more time. I'm looking at this. I'm like, this is. And then to the Muslim community. And by the way, all Americans should be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of religion.
Agreed.
But the double standard is just so apparent and so evident. And I was getting messages. I have some amazing friends in the Hasidic Jewish community that were just livid at de Blasio because they were socially distanced, wearing masks for a rabbi's funeral. That was the reason they were out. It wasn't because they were trying to cause commotion. It was for a funeral. And if you understand Jewish customs and traditions, they are very serious about funerals and very serious about funerals of rabbis especially. And they have to be done in a very specific period of time. And there's protocol that has to be followed. But according to Bill de Blasio, the tyrant, that should all be cast aside so that he can be right and he can say they're wrong.
It's Charlie Kirk. Follow him over on Twitter at Charlie Kirk. Also, you've got a great show that you do. How do people find your show? Do they go to charliekirk.com? Do they go to tpusa.com? What do they do?
Yeah, thank you. They can go to charliekirk.com or they can go to our website, tpusa.com. We do a daily podcast almost every single day now. Have some really big guests coming up. We got Nikki Haley, Governor Noem, Don Jr., you name it. But
nice.
If they want to check it out, thanks for mentioning it. That means a lot. Thank you.
No, you bet. And hopefully people will go and sign up at TPUSA as well and find out everything that you stand for. One last thing on de Blasio. He also said to people going to church, if you do it again, I'll shut your church down, maybe permanently. Charlie, I read the First Amendment right before the interview because I'm kind of stupid. You know this. But I read the First Amendment. It seems to say he can't do what he's saying he can do. He doesn't get to shut down places of worship. He doesn't get to pick and choose. And in fact, the First Amendment appears to say government can't get in my way when I choose to get on my knees.
Well, but not only that, I've struggled with this for weeks, and I've been very vocal about it, and I've gotten plenty of cross-examination and criticism for the other side. But I have not had anyone tell me why a home improvement store is essential and going to church is not essential. I have not heard a good reason for that. I have not heard. So I get the idea. If we were truly trying to do total, complete shutdowns and lockdowns, everything shut down, fine. Why is a liquor store open and why couldn't I go to church on Easter? I'm trying not to be bitter about it. I'm a Christian. I really trying to have grace, forgiveness, and try to be magnanimous about it. But it's hard not to be bitter. It's hard not to call out the double standard for what it is when Christians are not allowed to take the Eucharist, take communion, be able to go to confession, be able to practice their Lord and Savior, the risen God, Jesus Christ. Yet you can go down the street in Los Angeles or Ventura County to a weed shop or a liquor store, and somehow that is deemed essential.
Yeah.
And so it's not just de Blasio. We know de Blasio is a Marxist tyrant. We know that. What I didn't know, though, is all these other governors that all of a sudden, like Governor Whitmer and Governor Newsom, we kind of had an idea that he would go this direction.
Right.
This has been the greatest assault on religious liberty in American history. That's right. This has been the greatest assault on religious liberty, where pastors are being arrested, drive-through churches are not being allowed to happen, and churchgoers are getting tickets and solicitations. Meanwhile, you can go down the street to a drive-through liquor store or a drive-through weed shop, and they'd give you a discount. And so this is something that we as Christians should be very concerned about. I talk about it, of course, at the center we have at Liberty University. I'm wearing the gear today at Falkirk Center for Faith and Liberty, because this is something that we as Christians should not be comfortable or content with, which is this unprecedented assault on our religious liberty.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, your statement that this is the unprecedented, the biggest assault on religious liberty in our history is true. I hadn't considered that. It's absolutely happening. Charlie Kirk, go follow him at Charlie Kirk on Twitter. Go to charliekirk.com or tpusa.com. I've got to vamp on Whitmer a little bit because there's something very wrong with this lady. She actually was asked, why can't I go and get a hip replacement? Why can't I go and get some other so-called elective surgery that I really need? I'm in pain without it. Yet I could go and get an abortion. And she actually said abortions are essential because they're life-sustaining. Now, I don't know how the baby feels about that, but this is an elective surgery. Charlie, isn't their whole push on the left that it's a choice? Isn't choice the same thing as electing to do something? How is it that this person can make that make sense in her mind? At the same time, if you go to Walmart, you can buy food, you can't buy seed for your grass, and you can't buy a bucket of paint. There's something wrong there, no?
You're trying to use logic and reason to apply that of which the decision was made without any.
Right.
Look, there's 3,000 abortions a day that happen in our country. They prevent lives. They terminate lives. 3,000 abortions a day. And the obsession the left has with abortion needs to be talked about, not why they think it should be legal. We can win that argument, and we will win that argument. But their obsession, it's the pathological fixation on why they think 3,000 abortions a day is something that is tolerable or okay or moral for a society is just perplexing and puzzling to me.
Yeah.
And why during a crisis? I mean, for states that actually shut down their Planned Parenthoods, they actually probably saw their death rate go down despite COVID-19 spreading. Because if they shut down their abortion clinics, that means that innocent children were not being terminated in the womb and not be given the freedom and liberty and the opportunity to live in our country. And so, look, the left said that we have to shut down our entire country for health, safety, and well-being of our citizens. Under that sort of viewpoint, shouldn't we shut down all the Planned Parenthoods? Shouldn't we shut down all the abortion facilities? And again, they will say, well, that's not a life. Well, then what species is it? It's not a human life. What exact species is it? Where on the animal kingdom pyramid is that species? Because you don't all of a sudden go through some sort of metamorphosis of species. That is a human life from inception, from conception, I should say. The life is created. We as conservatives defend the unborn. We fight for those that do not have a voice. And the final thing is they say, well, it's my body, my choice. If it's not your DNA, it's not your choice.
Yeah, it's a great point. The DNA is completely different between mother and child. It's Charlie Kirk. Go to @CharlieKirk on Twitter. Follow him at charliekirk.com, also tpusa.com. At TPUSA, you can qualify for some PPP money. You guys could get that loan that will turn into a grant later. You decided not to. Why? Tell me what went into that thought process.
Yeah, we explored it in the initial phases. It's tempting, to be honest with you, to take a $1.2 million forgivable loan from the government.
Right.
And, we went through it. We reflected on it. We talked about it as a board of directors. And we proudly reject it. And look, of course, on the outset, why wouldn't you take it? Well, first of all, at Turning Point USA, we're on 2,000 high school and college campuses across the country. I would never be able to go to another college campus again and wear that big government sucks shirt with any form of integrity. I wouldn't be able to look our students in the eye and say, hey, government is not the answer to your solutions. You got to be self-reliant, freedom and liberty in the Constitution, while also reaching into Uncle Sam's pocket, the taxpayer's pocket, maybe thinking to myself, well, what if a coffee shop, manufacturing shop really needed this money and I was getting at Turning Point USA? Do we need the resources? Yes, we do. We are going to survive, though, because of our generous donors, and we're going to work harder. We're going to apply ourselves more, and we're going to find a way out of this crisis. However, I think a crisis can show people who they really are. And for us at Turning Point USA, we're an advocacy organization. That doesn't change just because the country goes into lockdown. Our mission statement is the same as it was today, as it was yesterday. And I made a commitment to my students, to our chapter leaders, and to our donors that we will stand for freedom, liberty, and limited government, even when times get tough. And so that was instructive to us. And I'll be honest, look, the human side of it, it's tempting. Yeah, sure, take the money. Why not? It's forgivable. Save the workers. But this is when we need to stand on principle more than ever before. And I will say this. There's no value judgment I express at all for businesses that take this money, because there are businesses that need it, right, that are not explicit advocacy organizations. And I hope you apply for it. I hope you go after it. But in my position, where it's literally my job to argue ideas, I could not take the money that would be contradictory to what I do every single day, which is argue for self-reliance and individual initiative.
Well, it's strong. I mean, and again, it stops you from anybody ever saying, wow, what a hypocrite, because you're not. I mean, you're somebody who's against big government, and if you can sustain your company, your organization, I should say, through this without the money, I applaud you. It's Charlie Kirk, at Charlie Kirk. Go to charliekirk.com or tpusa.com. One last quick one about the media. I thought I'd heard the dumbest things possible in the media. First of all, the media is complicit with Joe Biden right now. And all these women who allegedly are for Me Too were lying. It's Me Too if you're on the left, and it's Me Too if you're against Kavanaugh. But anybody who has a real, viable, backed up by video from CNN 20 years ago or more, it's a claim against Biden, you're going to be ignored. You're going to be called a liar. You've got Gillibrand and Klobuchar, and all these people are not coming out and supporting this woman, Tara Reade. The media is complicit. I believe that. But more specifically to a question that was asked of the president the other day in one of these press conferences. This Olivia somebody, Nuzzi, I don't know how she pronounces her name, says, should a president of the United States who loses more people than were lost in the Vietnam War be reelected? Charlie, how is that helpful when it comes to getting information out about coronavirus and what's next for America? And were you, this is a dumb question because I was kind of surprised by it. Are you surprised to the lengths the media will go to try to attack this guy and those of us on the right?
Not surprised, but disappointed. We do not have a media. We do not have journalists, and I'm trying to change the nomenclature of how we deal with the media and the conservative movement. And I'd love to get you on board. Do not call them journalists. Okay. Do not call them reporters. Do not call them media. Instead, call them for what they are. We have an activist community of people that are verified on Twitter that have been given jobs to control big platforms. That's what we have.
Great.
We have an activist community. They are not journalists. Journalism is dead.
It is.
Impartial journalism, looking at facts, objectivity. We have people that are no different than the college activists that are screaming in my face. The only difference is they're able to control themselves slightly better, and they express their rage in an unfair headline at the Washington Post or the New York Times. When I had to read at the Washington Post, where they said Trump allies harp on decades-old allegation against Joe Biden, I can't even, this is how they're explaining it. And look, I actually believe in the presumption of innocence. We're consistent here. I think Joe Biden should have due process and cross-examination.
100%.
I'm somewhat disinterested in like the whole idea of mob mentality. Do I think that women should be taken seriously? Absolutely. All accusations should be taken seriously. But this idea that everyone should be guilty, and I think that we as conservatives should say, oh, I believe Tara Reade. We don't know. We have to do an investigation. But what we should capitalize on is you try to destroy Justice Kavanaugh's life, over a 30-year-old accusation from when he was in college where she didn't know the house, she didn't know the address, didn't know the day, didn't tell anyone, blurry memory, total lied about so many different things during the process. Meanwhile, Tara Reade did tell her mom. She called into a CNN show, Larry King, and they deleted that segment completely and altogether. They had to find it in the deep total archives. She told her best friend, reaffirmed he was a U.S. senator, not in high school. That should be taken seriously.
Right.
And by the way, Kamala Harris said, well, if someone wouldn't come out to accuse Justice Kavanaugh, or Judge Kavanaugh at the time, now Justice Kavanaugh, of something this serious because he's going to one of the highest offices in the land. Well, guess what? The President of the United States is probably even higher than the Supreme Court because the president chooses who goes on the Supreme Court. Right. There's only one president. There's 9 Supreme Court justices. You make the argument, well, there's a lifetime appointment, whatever. They're still co-equal branches, and they're still very important. So then, using the logic of Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, and all these other people, wouldn't Tara Reade be telling the truth? You said believe all women. You said women can't be wrong. You said that we should not trust facts or opinions, but women, no matter what, would never make it up. Well, guess what? All of you dishonest hacks endorsed Joe Biden despite these allegations out there. And we have an activist community, not reporters, not members of the media, that are covering up for it because they want power more than they seek the truth.
So well said. If you like what he just said, and I'm sure you did, go to charliekirk.com. Check out the podcast. He's doing it every day now. Also follow him on Twitter, and also go to tpusa.com. Charlie, I can't thank you enough, man. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you, man. Talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot for stopping by. I appreciate you taking the time. Always really glad to have back the founder of TPUSA, also a conservative juggernaut. He's got a great radio show every day and a new book out as well. It's Charlie Kirk. Charlie, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm great. You're a great American. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, you are great. Now listen, bass clarinet, right? Am I right?
That's right. Yeah, very few people bring that up.
Well,
As a reed guy, bass clarinet's harder than you might think, and I played contrabass for a while as well.
That's a lot of wind to get through a contrabass. That's
right.
for sure. I'm a saxophone player, as you know, and I played baritone sax once at a recording session in Studio B in Fort Lauderdale. I thought I was going to die. I had nowhere near the lung capacity. I'm a tenor and an alto guy, so that's it.
Yep.
I love that we have that. All right, let's talk about this book. You've got a brand new book out called The College Scam, and Charlie, you and I both witnessed it with Obama. Suddenly, no more vocational school. Suddenly, we don't need auto mechanics or plumbers or carpenters. Everybody has to go and get a degree. Everybody's got to go to college. And you're saying there was a real reason behind that for the left.
That's right. I mean, I think it's a scheme and a plan. I think a lot of people are sympathetic to that argument now more than ever, especially what we've lived through the last couple of years, that the left has a plan and that we're all kind of living through it. And so, yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to colleges, I'm willing to say in this book what I think a lot of conservatives kind of dance around, which is that college is an outright scam. That, look, if your kid wants to become a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, fine. But be careful, they still might lose their values.
Yeah.
But a vast majority of kids that go to college, Joe, they're not studying that. They're studying North African lesbian poetry or 13th century Reconstructionist, I don't know, interpretive dance theory or whatever you want to call it. And so it's from the actual structure of what they're getting when they go to college, it's a waste of time and a waste of money. Now, mind you, if every school was like Hillsdale College, I would not have had to write this book. It would have been, well, college is too expensive. It's not just that it's too expensive. That's a major part of the book, by the way, of why it's too expensive and who's getting rich and the people on the board and the developers and the corrupt politicians. It's awful. But even if it was super expensive and maybe you were getting something in return, we could have a conversation about that. It's super expensive and you get garbage in return.
Right.
And finally, I'll just say this for our more political viewers and listeners, which is people are wondering, why is the country I'm living in so profoundly different than the one I grew up in? And one of the arguments I make in the book is it's because you've sent our prized possessions of young people to these colleges. I blame colleges for a vast majority of the problems that we're dealing with right now.
It's Charlie Kirk. You've seen him everywhere. He's got a great radio show as well. 45books.com is the website. 45, the number 4 and the number 5, books.com. Go there and get The College Scam. So they get us to go to college, forget the vocations. Now we've got you. We're going to teach you about ESG, going to teach you about the 1619 Project, going to teach you why BIPOC is more important than white and why white is bad and why you should feel guilty. And then once you finish college, then they're going to advocate to get rid of the college loans that you owe. Is this to really solidify them on the left forever? Look, we gave you free college. That's worth your vote, isn't it?
And they're never going to do it. That's the most important thing. Debt forgiveness will be the carrot that they dangle for the next couple decades to try to get people to keep voting for maybe incremental, right? Maybe $5,000 here, maybe $7,000 here. They're never going to do blanket student loan forgiveness. That would ruin their political power.
Right.
They hold an entire generation hostage because they told them to go to college to study things that don't matter, to find jobs that don't exist, and to borrow money they don't have to do those things. And so I think it's a political strategy, but even deeper than that, this is where bad ideas get credibility. Pick any idea that you think is insane right now. Any idea. Men can become pregnant. Or how about wearing 2 masks when you shower? Or any idea such as borders don't matter. It all stems from the university. These ideas don't come out of nowhere. They're written about, they're thought about, and they're given credibility by professors and academics. And so I make the other argument in the book that this tributary of bad ideas, that the starting point for that is the university. And so many conservatives are afraid to say this because they either sit on the board of the alma mater or they went to Texas A&M or they went to UT Austin and they had good memories there. That's fine. I'm not discounting any of that. But these universities have become complete opponents to Western civilization. Just read their websites. Everything they believe in that they're teaching here is against the fundamental values that made the West great. So we go after it rather enthusiastically in this book. I think everyone would benefit from reading it. Students, adults, board members, donors, or just regular everyday citizens. It's really been a labor of about a decade, Joe. And I'll say this. Really quick, I'm probably the best and worst person to write this book because I didn't go to college. Right. And so I'm the best person because I can say, oh, look what you could do without going to college. I'm the worst person because I actually didn't enroll in traditional 4-year college. However, I have visited over 100 campuses. I run a campus organization. I'm pretty in touch with what's going on in these universities and colleges. But I fully admit in the book that me not going to college gives me an argument that maybe you can make something yourself without having to get that piece of paper. So I think that people would benefit from it. It's also collegescam.com, which also redirects to the same website, 45books.com.
He's the author of The College Scam. He's a great talk show host. He's an activist for all things America First, and I love having you on. Charlie, it's interesting what you just said. Many people know this, some might not. I was a music major, saxophone performance, and I was a voice minor in college. I went for 2 years, then went to work, and I got 5 or 6 different jobs at once. I don't have a degree, and I don't need a degree because, as you said,
right.
I'm a vast success, way more than I ever could have imagined. 170 stations. I make a nice living. I've got a few cars, a couple of houses, whatever. So I can be the same example as you are, but you did it a different way in that it's so intelligent that you have now recruited the help of those who are in college, and you've got TPUSA, branches in colleges. In fact, you're being denied, activism on some of these college campuses, which actually is another feather in your cap. So I'm not against anybody who went to college. If you got a degree and you're using it, you're getting a great living out of it and supporting your family, and you love America, God bless you. But it is not a requirement to be a success in this country. How do we reprogram young people to understand that your story and mine can be theirs?
That's why I wrote the book the way I did, through shock and awe. You got to be provocative. You no longer it might not be a good idea. No, it's a scam. It's a cartel. You wouldn't have the Mexican drug cartel run your education. Well, that's what we have running higher education right now.
What a great comparison.
You have to have people that have succeeded without it. You have to contrast it with what's really going on, and you have to be very direct in regards to it. And you bring up another point with what we're doing at Turning Point USA. First of all, the other beautiful and delicious irony of this book is that all proceeds go to Turning Point USA. So I'm directing all of it as a major donation. And I did that for a couple of reasons. First of all, we need the help at Turning Point USA. We have chapters all across the country. We're hiring staff. It helps us fund our effort. But the second part, Joe, is that you could be part of the solution by learning about how terrible college is by actually funding a rescue mission of kids on college campuses and high school campuses by the work we're doing at Turning Point USA. So all profits of the book go to fund the wonderful work we're doing at Turning Point USA.
He's the author of The College Scam, Charlie Kirk. Make sure you check out his radio show, his podcast. He's on television all the time. Charlie, I've got to ask you this. How is it legal in this country, and maybe you've got a very simple answer to this, for any state-funded, taxpayer-funded university to allow for BIPOC housing, to allow for all white people are racist, to allow to shut down First Amendment speech rights for conservatives, yet you can wave the ISIS flag on campus if you want and get away with it? How is that okay? Listen, if I want to open up I Hate America University, that's a private institution. If you want to go there, pay me the money and go there. But if it's a state-funded, taxpayer-funded university, how is this legal?
It shouldn't be. I mean, you have examples, for example, Eastern Washington University, they have black-only dormitories. So many of these, that's not a red state, but there's plenty of red states where they have black-only dormitories, and they have people, as you mentioned, BIPOC, people of color, dormitories and living quarters. And it's something that Republicans, quite honestly, have allowed to happen. So there's two things. Number one, we're partnering with Stephen Miller, who I think is phenomenal, to actually put forward civil rights litigation against this, because we believe it's in direct violation of the 1960s Civil Rights Act. So that's number one. Number two, Republicans have got to wise up. And now this really is the third rail in the book, okay? So let's take a random state. Let's take South Dakota or North Dakota.
Yeah.
The university is one of the largest employers in South Dakota and North Dakota. You do not touch their budget. You do not question them. You might be able to tamper around the edges on some curriculum stuff, but that entire albatross, that machine goes untouched. And honestly, those are the states where it needs to happen the most, because we have political power where we say, you know what? No, you are going to have to take a course on Western civilization. If you hate the country as a professor, taxpayer dollars are not going to go about and fund that. Yet Republican politicians seem very shy and sheepish. I go into that in the book, developer contracts, alumni sitting on the board. In some of the bigger states like Texas, a lot of alumni, they use those kind of boards as ways to wield influence. I don't touch on that too much, but it's been well documented over the last couple of years. Also, it's this other thing where it's as if people think you're attacking the football program when you're attacking the college.
Right.
And I'm like the biggest college football fan in the world. So when people say, Charlie, you got to follow your heart. No. You got to follow your skill and something you like. If I followed my heart, I'd be like a D2 college football coach right now. Okay, I love college football. So I think it's somewhat corrupt at the highest levels. But the point is that you have to disconnect what's going on with these colleges than a 4-hour experience on a Saturday afternoon for 12 Saturdays, and that's a big part of it because a lot of people are afraid to attack their alma mater because of a successful sports program. First of all, that's a bad reason not to attack your alma mater.
Right.
But I have a whole working theory that I think a lot of these colleges, especially in the Power 5 conferences, they're actually able to keep their alumni at bay through successful sports programs.
The book is called The College Scam. Go to collegescam.com. Go and get it right now. It's Charlie Kirk. Charlie, you brought up a point that really did jump out at me. Martin Luther King Jr. died in trying to get equality and equal opportunity for all people in America. We had Richard Nixon, who desegregated schools more than any other president in history. How exactly has the left indoctrinated people enough that they're segregating themselves on purpose? Why would they ever go backward and basically dance on the grave of a guy like Martin Luther King Jr., who would be sick to see what's going on? How did they do this?
They never actually liked him. If you read some of the more kind of black nationalist literature in the 1960s and 70s, they rejected Martin Luther King's vision of a colorblind America. So kind of the modern day archbishop of everything racist and what they call anti-racism, which is actually bigotry. That's what we should call them, is a guy by the name of Henry Rogers. I always get it messed up. His name is really, he calls himself Ibram X. Kendi.
Okay.
Every parent should educate themselves on who Ibram X. Kendi is. He's taught in almost every major university, almost every teaching college. He now teaches first, second, and third graders. And I could summarize his entire philosophy in one quote: that in order to fix the segregation of yesterday, we need segregation today. We need active prejudice against white people to give blacks a preference. That is the stated policy position of one of the leading philosophers on the American left. They've never believed in colorblindness. Colorblindness is a threat to them. If we don't focus on skin color, then their entire coalition of hyper-racializing America falls apart immediately. And by the way, that's the country I grew up in.
Yeah.
I'm 28 years old. 12 to 15 years ago, when I was in high school, when I was in elementary school, when I was in middle school, no one talked about race. I went to a high school that was 53% Hispanic, and everyone got along. No one talked about race. So this is deeply personal to me, Joe, where now everyone's talking about race all the time, and we're more divided, and there's more racial corrosion. It's all artificial. And it's created with the intent to, I believe, create a metaphorical arson against the American Republic.
Now, I'm the next generation. You're young enough to be my son. I've got a 31-year-old daughter. But when I went to high school, I graduated in 1984. I went to Atlantic High School in Delray Beach, Florida, which was probably 70 or 80% black. All of my friends were of all racial backgrounds. We never, ever talked about race. We didn't because we were human beings. So what do they gain? Charlie, is this simply about votes? If we divide and conquer, I can tell black people whites hate you, tell whites Hispanics hate you, tell Hispanics Native Americans hate you, then I can own your vote? Is that what this is?
Yeah, some of them haven't really thought through it that deeply. They just think racism, so we have to go punish the racists, and that's about as deep as they think. But yes, I mean, look, they're following the playbook of South Africa. They're following the idea that we have a multiracial country and we're not constantly tearing each other apart is a remarkable thing. It's never happened before in the human experience, ever. Those countries are all homogeneously the same. Just go to Asia. Okay, go to Japan. They're all homogeneously the same.
Yeah.
Same in China. Same. India has some racial diversity, but not really. And so this idea that we have people from all across the world and we coexist, the only way you can work with that is to de-tribalize society. And yes, I do believe that some of them are doing it because they think they're feeling good. Now, there's this great, I can go into it, there's this great piece of literature in the 1970s when the Black Panthers were on the rise, and the Black Panthers were invited to this upper middle class white liberal cocktail party, and Leonard Bernstein starts to ask them just a couple questions like, hey, what's your plan? Like, we're going to burn it all down. And he asks a question, well, then what next?
Right.
And they respond, they said, well, come on, we can't have a plan for everything, man.
Wow. So burn it all down, and then what do? You just live in the burnt, ruins. Come on.
I just think that quote perfectly summarizes some of their sentiment, which is, what, we're supposed to think about what's next? Let's just burn it down. I mean, come on. At least we get to rule over the ashes.
The College Scam is the name of the book. He's the author. It's Charlie Kirk. You know Charlie Kirk, also the founder of Turning Point USA, does an incredible radio show every day. Check out everything that he does. One last question. Charlie, with the America First push, the vast conservative values push like you and I have, President Trump has. I just had Ronnie Jackson on. He's got the same exact feeling. You see people like Mike Pence is going to do a counter rally against Carrie Lake. I'm confused. Mitt Romney, who's the Mormon, he now is angry that Clarence Thomas would say that gay marriage shouldn't have been ruled as constitutional. What's going on our side of the aisle? I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a values guy. I'm not a party guy.
I'm 100%.
But what do you make of those who hate Gates or hate MTG and don't want Carrie Lake to win in Arizona? It doesn't make sense.
Your life becomes very easy, albeit unfulfilling, if you oppose the America First movement. You get book deals, dinner invites. The media doesn't investigate you. You get all sorts of speaker honorariums, corporate board offers. You get to go to Aspen to go speak at some sort of irrelevant thing where no one says anything substantive, but you get invited to some $65 million house. If you want to go through difficulty, embrace the America First movement. You get every journalist going after you. You get every government agency trying to investigate you. You'll get raided by the FBI. Do you think any of those people are actually going to be raided or investigated by the DOJ anytime soon? Of course not.
Yeah.
I really believe that it is the politics of exhaustion. I mean, you take some of those people you articulated, they try to do the conservative thing, and they don't have the stomach for a multi-decade fight. They just don't. Like, that's it. I want to enjoy the last part of my life. Like, I want a book deal. I mean, I want to sip champagne and act like I'm a good person. That's the final thing, is that because the allure from the fake morality of the Washington Post and the New York Times is so overwhelming, you really convince yourself that you're a good person. You really do. Like that I'm the virtuous one, like that Cassidy Hutchinson girl that testified in front of Congress. Like, I don't know her, seems like a nice person. But deep down, she fundamentally thought that she was some sort of civil rights crusader. Like, I'm a good person. Like, you're not, okay? And
are you telling me Trump didn't jump over the back seat and grab the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the most ridiculous thing ever. And by the way, it's hearsay, which will never be permissible in a court of law. But I mean, it's just, so what drives them? What drives them is social acceptability amongst America's elites. And deep down, they actually have a lot of resentment for people like us that didn't go to college. They have a lot of resentment for people that hunt and fish. Like, wow, they get sweaty when they enjoy themselves. Like, let's go watch polo.
It's crazy.
No.
I'd never heard that reason before, and I think that you're probably right. They're selling out to get what's good for them individually and to feel good about themselves when they lay their head on the pillow at night, and they're not willing to fight like you and I are. Go and get Charlie's book. It's called The College Scam, collegescam.com. Charlie, my friend, anytime you want to come on my show, is your show. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.